Hello and welcome to the top 10 list for the week, the Lou Dobbs top 10 greatest hits from a certain perspective with me, John, and Francesca. How's it going, Francesca?
That's good. I'm super excited. I'm surprised that they cut him loose.
I know, he's apparently like their best rated show on, reminder, Fox Business. It's a business show he does. You might forget that because I don't know if he's ever talked about business on there. It's just bootleg for an hour. But
who's the British guy who's like, I'm the British
Barney,
Lou Dobbs.
Stuart Varney. Yeah,
Stuart Varney, yes.
Sort of talks about business.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's been fired. It was on my birthday. It was a nice present. Thank you, universe. Apparently it was because he didn't have a good relationship with his advertisers, even though he had great ratings. So can we maybe get rid of Tucker? I don't know. That makes it seem as if it might be possible, but I think there are limits to it. But anyway, we decided we are going to say goodbye to Lou Dobbs by looking back on 10 of his greatest hits. And this is gonna be a combination of largely two sorts of things. Some of them are just legitimately awful positions he's had, quotes he said. And then there's a lot of just, my God, is he lodged deep inside of there. Like, I know there are people who are obsessed with politicians. Some people have said that perhaps I like Representative Ocasio-Cortez too much, and I get it. But I would say I've never said anything like any of these things. Wait until you see, I wasn't familiar with a lot of these. I had to do a bunch of research / mostly use what Media Matters had put together. But I found a bunch of other ones too. So anyway, why don't we launch into this? Thank you, by the way, for being a level 2 or level 3 member on YouTube and making this available. We really enjoy doing this each week, and we hope that you enjoy it as well. So at number 10, this is the first of the really sycophantish ones. So there are a lot of things that Lou Dobbs has credited to Donald Trump. There will be several on this list, but the first is when he credited the Trump presidency with an increase in Christmas displays and holiday joy. Not just that there's more displays, he has sensors that can detect an uptick in holiday joy.
There's more cheer. There is a quantifiable amount of cheer.
Cheeks are rosier. Garland glistens more. Tinsel,
the children,
more tinsely.
There's more mistletoe. More people are being kissed under it. And none of those people are immigrants.
Yeah, he went on to say, my wife and I have never seen so many displays and so much obvious joy in the moment here as we come into Christmas. So it is to me, that's a pretty good measure. Animal spirits are breaking out in the best of ways. I don't know what that means. Animal spirits, that's like what I imagine like beaches in Ibiza are like animal spirits breaking out.
Breaking out.
Holiday joy.
Have you seen Zootopia? That's exactly what I mean.
That's a sequel for it. So that's number 10. Now, number 9, let's go into some of the bad things that he said and done. This one might seem a bit subtle unless you're familiar with right-wing media. But back on September 11th, 2019, this is what he was talking about. He's talking about George Soros, and he says, it is extraordinary, and I think most people, I will include myself, cannot conceive of why George Soros would fund efforts that work against sovereignty, work against our laws. There are laws against illegal immigration, and to see his tentacles reach out into various non-government organizations and nonprofits that are working with everything from the Koch brothers to the Southern Poverty Law Center, as you document throughout this book you had a guest on. It is stunning to see how pervasive and how successful he has been with his strategy. And so there are two bad things there. One is the idea of the ubiquitous Jewish billionaires' tentacles creeping into everything. And the other is that he's talking about him funding illegal immigration. That was the Tree of Life thing. That's what that terrorist thought. That's why they attacked a synagogue, is because they believed George Soros was bringing caravans in. Lou Dobbs is like, yeah, no, that's what he's doing. Madness. This one's a little bit more serious. And anti-Semitic.
It's crazy. Like, not to do another plug, but Newsbrook did a video on George Soros, and I encourage everyone to watch it. Matt Lieb did it, and it was just goes into all the like conspiracy theories and basically like why the obsession. And it's just so funny that Lou Dobbs mentions the Koch brothers, because the Koch brothers are the same. Like they're the same thing. The only difference is they give to right-wing causes. George Soros is just the only mega millionaire, billionaire, whatever, ever much money he has, who gives to progressive causes. That's why they hate him. And he's Jewish, right? So it's it's the same thing. So you come back to oh, he's a billionaire who gives to his favorite causes, and those favorite causes just happen to be ones that are like prison reform, like Palestinian human rights and stuff like that. And they are, but yeah, I mean, this has actual ramifications, tentacles, man. I'm surprised he didn't start talking about his tail.
Exactly.
His scales.
And by the way, I do not know a single progressive media figure that's ever received $1 from him. They really just do think, no, it's just they found a get out of claims of anti-Semitism free card. They think, oh wait, we're allowed to say this about George Soros, right? Okay, good. Okay, it's in the same way that they desperately want to demonize against gay people, and they realize that that's a little bit harder to do, but they can talk about trans people in sports and in bathrooms. So it's it's like their methadone, basically. It's like they get to do it. They don't get in as much trouble, even though we know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Now, number 8, another of the things that Lou Dobbs credits to Donald Trump. Take a look at this.
Have a great weekend. The president makes such a thing possible for us all. Good night from New York.
Oh,
The Weekend, brought to you by Donald Trump.
The Weekend performing.
You don't even have to have the audio.
Performing at the Super Bowl. I love how his makeup makes him look human, but he's definitely clearly been dead for 10 years. And he also has very Gerber face. When Gerber babies grow up, he kind of has Gerber baby face.
His eyes were so red. He didn't look alive.
Never figure out what color his hair should be.
He doesn't remember. He doesn't remember his original name or hair color. But anyway, The Weekend, not brought to you by labor activists, brought to you by Donald Trump a couple of years ago. Did you know that in 2011 there were no weekends? Look at his dead little eyes and his hair color. Who are you kidding?
Yeah,
anyway.
Donald Trump makes it. I mean, now you're just reaching. Come on. You can't think of anything. Can you imagine remember when Trump didn't know how to defend a second term for himself? He was like, I'm great, He might as well have said just well, the weekend is back.
Yeah, he could have at least signed on to my call for a third day to The Weekend.
Oh,
we need to talk about that again. Anyway, okay, but lest you believe, I want to pop back and forth between the bootlickish and the serious, because he's not just a guy who likes Trump. You also have this. So this is way back. I think this might have been in 2009 era, maybe a little bit after that. Yeah, no, because I think it might have been with the birther stuff. But anyway, here he is talking about race. This is back when he was on CNN, I think. Because remember, he wasn't always on Fox. And he's talking about how you're not allowed to talk about race. And we should be free to express whatever thought we have about race. And take a look at the thought that he almost expresses before he dials it back.
And if and to hear a politician, whoever it may be, talk about how difficult it is to talk about race, well, the heck with them. We're living with the issue of race. We've got to be able to talk about it. And I can guarantee you this, not a single one of these these just ridiculous politicians should be the moderator on the issue.
Yep. Oh, by the way, he was talking about Condoleezza Rice there. I mean, he went a little bit broad and said, but the conversation was about Condoleezza Rice. He was gonna say cotton picking. That's what he wanted to say.
Wait, the critique was about Condoleezza?
That was what he had been pitched to. It was something about Condoleezza Rice and conversations about racism or something like that. And his whole point was we should be able to express anything about race we want. And he stopped himself because even Lou Dobbs realized that was a racism too far. Man.
Oh, Lou Dobbs getting woke. He's very like Jimmy Stewart in the year 2021, realizing what? We don't say that anymore? Oh, they can vote now. Well, that's a Christmas miracle, not included in my movie. Just so. Oh my God, yeah. He was going to say cotton picking, which would have been probably the end of Lou then?
I don't know. He was on CNN. That's crazy. But anyway,
like imagine thinking that structural racism doesn't exist and like thinking that everyone overplays it when like your go-to term is like cotton picking,
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, let me just.
I don't know if you're referencing a particular thing, but it didn't make it on the list. But he once said that claiming that racism was structural was itself racist.
Sure. Yeah.
That's the thing that he said. Anyway, okay, let's go back to the bootlicking. Here is some amazing detached from reality bootlicking about Trump.
No history is written by the winners. And that means President Trump and the Republican Party he leads will be the ones who decide. And it will be exoneration, and it will be century after century of veneration for this president.
Dude, come on, man. I know that like this is what your show is just competing with yourself every day to be more bootlicky about Trump. But like, first of all, you get that he lost and that he lost the House and that he lost the Senate and all of that. But centuries of veneration, in centuries, they're not going to remember anything. They're going to be like fighting over like the remnants of tin cans underwater because the tin can is the boat.
And being like, why didn't? Remember how Trump, in this pivotal moment for climate change, did the exact opposite? Yeah, F that guy.
Centuries of veneration.
Like what position? First of all, is he gonna be the greeter in Mar-a-Lago? Hello, welcome. May I take your bag? Thank you. Yes, thank you for this job. Praise him, Donald Trump. Like he's totally the bellhop. He would look so good, little bellhop of it. Like literally, like what is his position? What does he think his position is going to be? Other than, do you think he's the Messiah and like you're gonna get a spot in heaven? Like why? Venerated for centuries.
Look, if you're being serious, what it is probably a primetime slot on Trump TV is probably what's gonna happen because he will do the show even more for an audience of one in that case. If not that, then yeah, he's probably gonna be telling people that like there's a 3-for-1 deal on Stouffer's stovetop stuffing. This deal brought to you by Donald Trump. Anyway, it does get dark again though.
Can I just mention though, doesn't he also, speaking of child, like he Gerber face? I'm telling you, he's got like child actor gets old face. Like I feel like Haley Joel Osment is gonna look like him when he's older. Where he's got like his face is small, but his head gets fatter.
Oh no, that's terrible. Okay, so at one point, just a few years ago, an ICE guard was trying to drive to the facility and there were protesters. And so the ICE guard thought, I'm just gonna drive right through these people. And this is how Lou Dobbs described that.
Just gladden your heart to see a bunch of demonstrators at a immigration customs enforcement facility blocking the path of a guard and then complaining about the fact that he sought to do what is within his rights, which is to proceed to park his vehicle and go to work.
He ran into a crowd of protesters.
What?
And they described it as within his rights. He gets to park. Doesn't it warm your heart that happened? Look, he's bad in a lot. This is number 5, by the way. He's bad on a lot of different topics, but for a very long time, immigration has by far been the worst. This dude wishes they were like clubbing immigrants coming in like baby seals. Like there is no end to how little he cares about the life or worth of people trying to get into America. The idea that even like protesters about immigration deserve to be run down by the police state.
Yeah.
Ugh, nasty.
Yeah, no, and this calls for what we called him on Newsbroke, which was, I think it was pieces of Lou Dobbs, who fun fact is actually the stitched together flesh of every American's racist uncle that was then shimmied into a suit to hide the lightning scars that brought it to life. So he's
look at his rosy cheeks.
He's so gleeful in this. He is truly disgusting. And he's talking to, is this the acting head of ICE?
It was, yeah.
And like that, they're having this like gleeful moment of, I mean, and that really is like, it tells you all you need to know about ICE, which now is like trying to defy orders from Biden to stop deportations. They're a completely rogue agency that has way too much money, is completely, it's overfunded and it needs to be abolished, actually.
Yeah.
Anywho,
okay, let's go back to the bootlicking. So throughout the Trump administration, every once in a while you'd get a book that was written or like an insider expose saying that like there were these factions fighting each other and nobody trusted each other. People were getting fired constantly, basically that the environment was terrible. And he couldn't have that. He doesn't want Trump, who's watching a show, to think that the White House sucks. So here's how he described the mood in the White House.
The demeanor of the folks working for this president, for the people. It couldn't be more positive. The mood in that White House couldn't be more high energy. I've seen a number of White Houses. I happen to have seen this one in its early days, and I have seen it now. And I want you to know the joint is hopping. At every level, on every floor, this White House is energized. There's sunshine beaming throughout the place and on almost every face. It's winner and winning center. And our White House, our president.
Okay, it's winning center. There's sunlight beaming all over the place and on almost every face. Seriously, it's hard to get work done because it's just a glare. Like wherever I go, it's in my eyes. That's a joke. Maybe that should have been number 1 instead of number 4. Everybody's high energy and they all have a smile on their face. It's like he's talking about Santa's village. He's talking about Stephen Miller skipping to go break up another immigrant family.
I'm getting a lot of like Scrooge McDuck going visiting his younger self vibes when he's like, everyone was joyful and there she was. The dames were dancing and she looked at me from across the room and that's when I had a heart. And like he knows exactly when America was great again. It's like when he was 13 and he like, felt, got his first little, I don't know, like he got a kiss from a girl.
That's better than what I thought you meant.
I didn't mean that, but like, can we just talk about how much this show phones it in? Not the damage report, but like Lou Dobbs' business. Like he's putting over his shoulder headlines like winning energy or, and he's reading what's over his shoulder. Like
it's the same
script. It's an opinion. It's the sentence that's on his prompter, and it's also the sentence that's next to him, which is not a news article or any kind of fact-based, anything. It's just the words that someone wrote for him as an op-ed. Like,
can I do that? Can I do that?
Yeah, like imagine if all of the things you were going to say were also just the things over your shoulder that weren't news articles.
Yeah. It's so
and
weird.
Then you called that a show. I mean, look, it's cushy life, I guess.
He also said, and let's not pass this over, the joint is hopping. That was an actual quote from Lou Dobbs.
I'm telling you, the joint was hopping, and I put a little dime into the jukebox, and there she was. Her name was Cheryl. She looked at me from across the room, and oh boy, I felt my
stop.
My suspenders got immediately tighter, if you know what I mean.
No, not in a top 10 list. No. Okay, now we have 3 left, and it's about to get dark. So, and think about what you've done.
3. Oh my God, how long do we have to do this for?
I apologize. Only a little more.
No more Lou.
This one's not fun, but I've got some fun ones. Anyway, number 3 is so he was being interviewed. This is back in 2011, I think. I ask a question and I'm attacked from the extreme left as a quote unquote birther. I mean, what the hell is that? When you can create a controversy by asking what seems to me still a perfectly common sense question. It's been used in the extreme left to create a toxicity that is just unbelievable. So years into the birther thing, he was still calling it, you're calling me a birther. By the way, it's totally common sense to believe that he's not actually a citizen. So he's like saying it's not fair and then doubling down on it again. Years into it, he was still a birther, saying that there is no way Barack Obama could possibly be the actual president. This is after they had made the documents available. He would never accept it, no matter what they did. If you created a DeLorean to travel through time and watch Barack Obama's mom give birth, he wouldn't believe that either.
Fake news. But that's the thing, like, I mean, we forget, like,
news.
This is what happens, we forget that, like, there was no apology on, well, definitely not on the originator, which is Trump, like his behalf. Zero apology for the birther conspiracy, which makes sense. Of course, Lou Dobbs is gonna continue to, like, at least say that he believes in it. And people are probably gonna still believe in it because there's been no apology, no, like, accountability. The people who believe it have been elected to office. And this is what happens when you don't stamp that stuff out.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and I feel like as Democrats, we kind of move on and we're like, okay, anyway, back to, like, especially centrist Democrats in the media, we're like, all right, we're refocusing because that's a weird thing. Yeah, but that weird thing still hasn't been debunked. It's still out there. So, like, anyway.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. I have another instance of what you're talking about something still being out there potentially if we don't deal with it. And it has to do with Lou Dobbs's positions on coup d'etats, which it turns out it really depends on who would be in power after it. Because back during the Mueller investigation, he said, they want to destroy this man. They want to subvert his administration. They would love to carry out an actual coup d'etat, which he supposedly, you might think, would be against. But after Trump lost the 2020 election, among many other things that he said, here are just a few of the highlights. He suggested that Republicans should just say, we're not going to accept the results of this election no matter what happens. Demanded that Republicans surround Philadelphia and exert a demanding presence. When you're the Republican Party, they let you do it. Anyway, he defended the insurrectionists after January 6th, saying they were just walking between the rope lines. I don't know which part of beating a cop to death is just between the rope lines. And he said there would not be a quiet surrender if the election results aren't overturned. So
I mean, I think
the coup thing is sort of, it depends, really.
I'm not gonna give Fox News any kind of credit, but it definitely is it might be a sign. One, first of all, he is old as sin, but also he would have just kept on repeating the line that the election was stolen and that the insurrectionists had every reason to do what they did. Like, at what point? I don't think he would have walked that back ever. So, like, you kind of need some fresh meat in there if you're gonna remake. I mean, because this is the interesting thing is, like, if the entire Republican Party is trying to remake themselves and rethink themselves and their strategy and they don't know who they are, you don't think Fox News is also doing the same as their advertisers jump ship? They're trying to figure out, what is their future? What do they believe in? They can't have this old, geezer going on about the 2020 election.
Yeah, maybe, but they're also they're hurting, because of OAN and Newsmax, and they just got rid of, like, the biggest Trump bootlicker on there, like maybe more than Sean Hannity. Like, Sean Hannity loves Trump, talks to him constantly, but Sean Hannity hasn't done some of this stuff. So they're choosing a side potentially. But there is still one more, and this is another one of the bootlicky things. And this is just, if you could summarize all of what Lou Dobbs eventually became in one on-screen graphic, I think it would be this poll that they put up 5 days into the lockdown. How would you grade President Trump's leadership in the nation's fight against the Wuhan virus? Superb, great, or very good? I guess they can only put 3, and neutral or bad just weren't options. So the worst rating you could give was very good for the performance against the Wuhan virus, for which now, a year later almost, nearly 500,000 Americans have died to.
What kind of college credit or just like passing 3rd grade, like a couple stickers and maybe a lollipop were the producers at Lou Dobbs Tonight paid with? Like, I feel like that's like, I always think about the people behind a show, what kind of support do you have? Who's making your graphics? What, it matters. It's a lot. And clearly they were doing it for some, like, fun dips and, a scratch sniff sticker. And, like, cause there's, which, I mean, look, let's be real. That's why Trump ran for president, was mostly for, I don't know, more access to Diet Coke and Big Macs. But, like, that, by the way, that looks exactly like a Trump poll. If you've been on the Trump listservs, which if you've ever covered, the conventions, they put you on them and then you can't get off forever and ever and ever. They will periodically send out these polls that are just like exactly that. The worst starts at magnificent.
Yeah, it's just a joke. I mean, that at least is almost like admitting it, like admitting what you're doing, like that your show just exists for like Fox. Other Fox hosts exist for racist 70-year-olds to feel good and beautiful. This is like for racist 90-year-olds to feel like, yeah, I think he is superb. Thank you for pointing that out, Lou. And that's all it is. Honestly,
maybe he's losing his demographic, quite literally losing his demographic.
Every day he loses a bit more. The pandemic was rough on Lou Dobbs viewers. But like if we did a show like this for Bernie with polls like that, and Bernie gave us the weekend, and when Elizabeth Warren walks into the room, sun shines in her eyes. Like, I really hope people would tune in for long to that.
It's very Grandpa Simpson vibe. It's like, I think that is like, you're so right. It is the eldest demographic who, the reason they couldn't put more options on the screen is because they couldn't read them. It was a stretch to like even put 3. You can't make your audience have to put on their glasses, then you just lose them.
Look at his dead little eyes. Oh God. Anyway, Lou Dobbs, I would love to say we're sorry to see you go, but obviously we're not. That's it. I assume I won't think about you anymore. You were terrible and you deserve far worse than this.
Yes.
Anyway, thanks Francesca for joining us on that. That was pretty fun actually.
That was really fun, thank you.
Great to have you here. Everyone, thank you for supporting the show and making top 10s like this possible. If you have requests for a top 10, feel free to post it in the comments to this video. Maybe we'll do a viewer request one next week. And until next time, thanks again.